I have here, like, next to me on this apparatus here, this sculpture, and then this phone, there's like 5 hours and a half of Instagram stories that I've been doing since January, this non-performance conduct thing, of like this process of stream of consciousness, the recording live, all the deprogramming that I am working with, like this self, and I noticed, like, yeah, like it's been like, I don't know how many people in this body, and I like to think of really like the body as an avatar to subjectivity, and it is really pop documentary. That's the beginning. It's a little bit of what you're seeing on the holographic universe. It's really interesting because when it came out in the 90s, it went straight into New Age, and a lot of the stuff I talk about, if I was talking about ages ago, people would be like, oh my God, that's so hippie, like you're so New Age, like, oh my God. And now, like, science has proved so much from it. And so one of the things that informs me to the avatar, little avatar theory that I have, and that I'm exercising here and observing, and also about the reality that we are, and actually Elon Musk's is on this as well, that we are in the simulation, is this, for example, if you think that the way you see, like that's what was on one of the parts of the documentary, that it happens in such a dark place in your brain. Basically, this here is decoding all these light inputs and sensations into the brain that then tells you that you are in a room with green walls, and that you are in this body, and that, you know, that you're touching this material or this, when actually nothing ever touches because the electric current doesn't allow it for it to happen. So what is that which feels? It's a kind of aesthetics that somebody would maybe come across and be like not, you know, go into it or not take it seriously. And I like to think about how much don't we stop ourselves sometimes from getting in touch with a piece of information or somebody because of statics, because we're being pictorially triggered by something or someone. For example, I can identify the mechanisms that can activate, for example, racism, transphobia, homophobia, misogyny in a pictorial trigger. Sometimes, because this is why sometimes I think people get so fired up when you're like, oh, you're being racist or you're being misogynistic. Is a lot of people don't feel like, you know, you hold those values, or actually doesn't even at a conscious level hold the values, but then you see something, you see this image, and you get triggered into reproducing this malware, these viruses, these apps that we have installed with that suddenly like exposes this this condition that we've been socialized into, that we're just merely reproducing in automatic behavior. So this selection of videos has also to do with the fact that I feel like we need to deprogram ourselves. We need to be looking at how we are perceiving the world. Like, how does our brain work? Like, go into the neuroscience of things, go into the psychology of things. Like, like, why do you act? Why does one act the way one acts? Like, what is actually driving us? You know, so that we can find a way of having proper agency and stop reproducing these super negative patterns that only cause pain to everyone and division. So for example, by putting something that would be aesthetically maybe very unpleasant for someone, I'm hoping that someone can like sit it through and not be like, oh my God, I hate these aesthetics, and like get to what's being talked about. And there's also some sort of like, is it scapegoating? Anyways, I think to do with anything considered hippie or new age or whatever. I've seen this so many times these days, where we're having like Jeremy Corbyn talking, and this like this movement for consciousness, where some people would be like, I don't want to sound like a tree hugger, but like this guy is really cool, or I don't want to sound too hippie, but we really need to love each other, to have empathy, or I don't want to sound like that. And so like we really like, there is something to do about the aesthetics of things. Like, what are the aesthetics of conscious awareness? What are the aesthetics of our radical empathy? And what is getting in the way because of our prejudice, because of sometimes our classism, you know, or this, our attachments to what is the appropriate aesthetic to something, getting in the way of us coming to a point where we can have some sort of harmony and solution to this division problem. I'm gonna leave it at that for the moment, I guess, and we can go to the next clip.